Hey guys, injury lawyer Scott DeSalvo here. I was going to shoot you guys a video on this topic on my way in because I like to do my videos in the car, but I forgot to do it, and I came into work super early today, so I guess I had work on my mind. But I've got a couple of workers' comp cases where this very topic has come up, and obviously the topic is, can my boss or supervisor call and harass me if I'm off work with a note after a work injury? So if you're off work with a note, workers' comp, can your boss constantly call you or your supervisor constantly call you, blow up your phone, call you multiple times a day, all that? So I got two cases like this, but one in particular, guy with a completely clean work record, got hurt in a completely legit injury, and of course things changed for him really quick at work. He went from being a long-term respected employee to immediately they started harassing him. Like they were calling him and asking him, telling him don't file workers' comp, but the guy ended up needing surgery. So he contacted me, and as he predicted, as soon as they became aware that he needed surgery and he had the surgery and he was considering doing a workers' comp claim, his boss started calling him every day, like asking him the same stupid questions, like keeping him on the telephone, all this kind of stuff, saying things like, well, I know you have an off work note, but, why don't you just try to come back to work? We really need you here. Why don't you just come to work anyway? And just like asking him the same questions over and over, like, how did it happen? How are you doing? What are you doing all day? These sorts of things. And if my client doesn't show up, like he gets called multiple times a day, and if he doesn't pick up, the boss will leave him 6 or 8 voicemails, right? And so driving him crazy, and that's a pretty extreme, a pretty extreme case. But here's the thing that you really need to know: there are really only 2 topics that justify them calling you if you're off work with a note. The first one is, do you have an off work note? In other words, you had a recent appointment with your doctor. Did you get a new off work note? And are you coming back to work? That's completely legitimate. They can call you until you give them a work status note saying whether you can come back to work or you can't work at all or light duty. They're within their rights to call you reasonably to ask you whether you're coming back to work or whether you have an off work note, right? That's why I tell people, whenever you're hurt on the job and you go to the doctor, get a work status note saying whether you can work full duty, part duty, or you can't work at all. The second topic that they can call you about that's legit, if they call you reasonably, is to schedule an examination with the company doctor, their doctor. Now, big distinction I've talked about in other videos, they can't tell you who you have to treat with under Illinois law. Now, that may be different in other states. In fact, I know it is different in certain other states, but at least in Illinois, where I practice, you get to choose who your doctor is, and the company can't tell you who to treat with, but they can set appointments for you to be examined by the company doctor, and they are within their rights to call you to schedule that exam or have somebody else call you and schedule it. So those are really the only 2 reasons. If you're off work with a note, those are the only 2 reasons they need to be calling you. Are you coming back to work? Send us your most recent work note, or to schedule an exam with a doctor. Now, the truth is, it isn't fair for them to harass you several times a day and call you several times a day like that, because that's harassment and you don't deserve it and it's not legitimate. So I always tell people, if that's happening, save the voice messages and make a log of how many times they call you, because we might be able to get penalties in front of the judge or the arbitrator at the Illinois Workers' Compensation Commission, right? So important to know that they can't harass you. They're not allowed to, but if they're doing it, save the evidence so we can prove it, right? And, sometimes I can call the insurance company and say, hey, the employer is harassing my guy, tell him to knock it off. A lot of times that solves the problem too. So if you've been injured and you need to talk to a lawyer, you have any questions, I offer a free, no obligation case strategy session. You can reach me 24/7, 365 at 312-500-4500. No obligation call, happy to answer questions, or you can get more information at my website at DeSalvoLaw.com. Hope this video helped answer some questions for you, and take care.